You're listening to Morning Light, brought to you by our friends at Photo Central. My name is Simon Rusnak. This weekend, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra presents the thrilling fifth episode in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back in concert. Returning to the WSO is former associate conductor maestro Julian Pellicano, who has joined me in the Classic 107 studio. Hello, Julian.
Simon, hello.
Oh, it's great to have you here. It feels like you've returned from a galaxy far, far away, though I don't think Toronto is actually that far. What's life like in the Six? How's the big smoke?
It's a lot of fun. Toronto's a great city, but in a lot of ways it reminds me of where I grew up, living just around New York City. But at the same time, it doesn't diminish my love for Winnipeg. And Winnipeg is also a fantastic city. That I'm lucky that I get to know it intimately.
Well, you and the family made the move there this summer ahead of your appointment to the conducting staff at the National Ballet of Canada. I'm curious, I know it's early days. What's that gig been like so far?
Oh, it's a fantastic place to work. National Ballet is it's a massive organization here in Canada, and a huge ballet company with a lot of repertoire for me to be learning and performing. So at the moment, I'm in a stage where, I'm learning our year's worth of ballets, which is not just a few. It's quite a lot. And getting to know the dancers, getting to know my colleagues. It's a lot of fun. I'm just really enjoying it.
Well, so glad to hear that. And of course, you have close ties to the community here in town. You still serve as music director of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. Have you wrapped your head around returning to the WSO as a guest conductor? I say with air quotes.
It definitely feels strange, I have to say. After, a few hundred concerts over the past decade, or more than a decade, that it feels unusual to be a guest. Because, I feel like I lived in that house partially, maybe more so than my own house sometimes. But as soon as I see my colleagues in the Winnipeg Symphony, who, we've shared so many, intimate musical moments, and then also moments off stage as well. You don't feel like a guest anymore. You feel like you belong there. So, and that's the people connection. That's a great people connection of making music together, right?
Of course, you are no guest at all, a member of the family. You spent 11 seasons here, and it's so wonderful to welcome you back, especially to continue your longstanding involvement in the BMO Night at the Movies series. And speaking of series, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, the second film released in the epic worldwide pop culture phenomenon. Tell us about your relationship with Star Wars, Julian.
Well, Star Wars was... The first Star Wars came out just before I was actually born. So I was a little bit too young for the first run of Star Wars, but then started to watch it when it sort of came back in the second, like in the 90s.
Yeah, with the Phantom Menace, 99. Yeah.
Exactly. But my relationship to these films has grown because I've just conducted so much music by John Williams, and I've gotten into it through the music. And of course, the storytelling is incredible, and the films are amazing, and there's a reason why they're so popular and they're deep part of pop culture. But the music really is phenomenal. A lot of times, unfortunately, when you're watching the movie, like on a regular TV or something, the sound effects, it's hard to catch all the details of the score. One of the great things about hearing the symphony play the score live is that really, one of the things we're trying to do in these sorts of shows is say, like, okay, this is a great movie, but we're trying to highlight the fact that it's a masterpiece of a score, and that's why we play it with an orchestra. It's worthwhile to put 70 to 80 people on a stage and actually play the whole thing, because it's that good, and you're going to hear more details in the score than you would if you were just watching the movie at home. Yeah,
this is literal surround sound. It's not a 5.1 or a 7.1. It's a full orchestra that's playing the score, which is such an incredible experience if people haven't, participated in the BMO Night at the Movies series before. And I mean, you talk about the John Williams score, and I'm curious, you've led a lot of these over the years. What do you think makes him such an incredible writer of soundtracks?
Well, John Williams was instrumental in the 1970s in bringing back the classic Hollywood style. There was a period of time in the film industry where outside of a Western, you wouldn't hear a symphony orchestra anymore. There was Henry Mancini, and it was jazz and, whatever. And then John Williams is the one who said, no, we're going to go back to Korngold. We're going to go back to Max Steiner. Those were his heroes. And he created the first Star Wars score is supposed to be a recreation of a Korngold score. That was his inspiration. And there's so much of that in all of these scores. And the other big player in the early Hollywood music that John Williams brought back is Wagner.
Mm-hmm.
Though all of those composers who were writing in Hollywood in the 1920s and 30s, they were all emigrated from Europe. They were opera composers or musical theater composers, and Wagner was their model. John Williams does the same thing, and especially in this film, even more than Episode 4. Episode 5 is even more Wagnerian in that the interplay between the score and the screen and the subtleties of what's happening before your eyes and then as it hits your ears is striking. The themes that are running through the orchestra continuously, it feels like in some ways I'm studying Das Rheingold, but no, it's Star Wars Episode 5.
And it is so demanding for the orchestra as well. I mean, you don't really stop playing up on that stage. I mean, this is a real commitment to the score, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 2 hour and 4 minute film, and it's 140 minutes of music, so...
Yeah,
we're playing a lot.
That is absolutely wild. I mean, one other thing that I think people might be wondering about at home is a lot of people, grew up with this film or have watched it countless times. I mean, I can picture exactly where the box set of the original trilogy is on my parents' shelf that's still at home. I remember watching it as a kid growing up and going to a family birthday for Phantom Menace. Do you rewatch the film? Like, how much did you have it on the iPad as you were coming over from Toronto, making your way over here, or did you bust out the old VHSs? I mean, how many times do you rewatch this film going into this?
If I were watching the movie on the way here, that'd be a bit last minute.
I know that's pretty terrible plan, but you're a busy guy.
I prepared ahead of time. Let's put it that way. Definitely for sure.
Yeah.
I don't walk into conducting an orchestra, but no, you definitely like one of the first things I do is when I approach a film that I'm conducting for the first time, and this is the first time I'm doing this score. I'll do it again a couple of times this year with different orchestras. But I just watch the film. That's the very first thing I do because I just want to get a sense of how the music works. And of course I have the score, and I want to really see how the music works with the film because that's really the priority is to get that right. And then conductors who conduct live films, we work with a system called punches and streamers that was invented at the Hollywood at the 20th Century Fox studio in the 1950s, and it's the same system that John Williams would have used in the recording studio when he recorded this music in order to synchronize it to the film. John Williams notoriously did not use click tracks when he recorded his scores, and he conducted the orchestra. And I also don't use a click track. I do exactly like the way that he did it in the studio, just with the punches and streamers. It's a visual system, so there's a screen in front of me. Many people who have been to these concerts have seen this. There's a screen in front of me.
I love watching that thing, I gotta say.
Line go across and this little blip, and it's... And so I have that version of the film, and I use that as I learn the notes on the score and learn the orchestration, and then also practice synchronizing it because there is something to it. When you listen to the music and then you watch the punches and streamers that have been retroactively fitted to the film for this performance, John Williams is not like exactly on click. I mean, the music moves and it breathes, and so there is a little bit of freedom, but of course, you need to know when there are hits. So when something happens in the film that is in the music in a very stark way, it just has to be right on.
And I mean, you are just an absolute master at this. Someone who's watched you do it for years now. You've really kind of honed your craft here in Winnipeg, and you're doing it across North America because it is certainly an art. One thing that I've been thinking about the last little while is what you do as a conductor is not unlike the skills of a Jedi. You've got a proficiency with pointy objects. You've spent years training. There's a mentorship, and of course, you use the Force to make things happen. Do you think that's a fair comparison? Do you ever think of yourself as a Jedi Knight, perhaps, Julian?
I mean, I'm not the kind of person that would think of myself that way, but now that you bring it up,
yeah,
maybe.
Sort of makes sense. So then I guess the follow-up to this is, do you ever feel the pull of the dark side when you're up on the podium?
I don't know exactly what the dark side would be, but I can say that it's important to feel something when you're up there. I think when I was learning to be a conductor, I had some really great mentors and teachers, and sometimes it's difficult because you're so involved in getting it right, and you forget to just allow your emotions be aligned with the music, right?
Mm.
But and like any type of performance, there are some nights that feel better than others. The audience may or may not notice that. You probably notice it more than anybody else, right? Because you're doing what you do. But when you're conducting and you really feel the same way as the music that's flowing through the orchestra, those are always the best performances.
Well, wishing you an incredible performance this weekend. 2 performances at the Centennial Concert Hall. Tickets are very limited. 7:30 p.m. tonight. Same time, same place tomorrow. WSO.ca to try and grab some tickets. Just before I let you go, Julian, expecting a pretty packed house. No surprise there, really. Anything you'd like to say to the audience, those who will be there tonight, or perhaps those who maybe can't make it?
Well, I mean, for the people that are coming this weekend, I'd just like to thank you because, I have a great respect for our audience here in Winnipeg. I've just enjoyed over the years performing. I'm so grateful I get to continue that a few times this year and into the future. And thank you and enjoy. And for those of you who are not there, maybe I'll see you at a future concert, I hope.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Let's put it that way.
And we're really looking forward to having you back. 7:30 p.m. tonight. Again, tomorrow at the Centennial Concert Hall. Appreciate you coming in this morning, Julian. Great seeing you as always.